Book 1. Ward.
Universal Futsal Entry, President Eleron, AB 54493649337, Mars, Universe Assistant Going, Eleron. Headline, Goodbye Mars, retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
The results of the International Peace Organisation presidential election are as follows. Alike, Mrasianbrat Party, 82,957,687 votes. Horace, Agrosians in every pot, Abridas Party, 977,938,901 votes. Bob, Ik bin einer Belobrat Party, 932,759,003 votes. Jane, please don't shoot me, I'll give you anything you want. Glabdahardit Space Party, 64,836,057 votes. Moldofus, it's the economy, stupid. McGrope Party, 4,388,928 votes. A Campaign of Giants, Dewsbury Party, 34,976,013 votes. Cody, vote for the party of the first party, hitherto known as the victors, and then we can have a real party. Cabalosian Party, 6,352,567 votes. Lawrence, Yes We Clandesprod Party, 785,900,603 votes. Space Commander Binface for 14th, Bring Back CFAX and ban the Universal Earth Party, 8,586,983 votes. Doris Johnson, Know Your Place Sir, Earth Protest Party, 32 votes. Eleron, we are all one planet and we're only 37 billion light years apart. Intergalactic Peace Party from Mars, 977,957,935 votes. The Humrasianart, known as Eleron, is therefore duly elected as our new intergalactic president. In the background played one of my speeches. The universe is at a crossroads between being great for some and magnificent for all. We are now several generations on from the moment of first contact between all planets, and we can see the bigger picture that our ancestors never could. A community, universe-wide, built on fairness and helping out those who are most in need, of putting the bigger concept of all our 10 species ahead of ourselves and even our own planet. Of taking tiny pieces away from the few to change the lives of the many. But when anyone on any one planet is hurting, we are all hurting, and only when we are thriving as a community, together, can we truly be free. I know things look bleak on many of your homeworlds right now, and that the darkness of the universe hangs heavy. But all it takes is one pinprick of light to shine through, like the stars, and suddenly we can see everything brightly again, the way it should be. It's hard to stay unified in a universe that's sprawling, but all we need is one small pinprick of light to brighten our way. The universe isn't a whole load of strangers. The way I see it, they are just a bunch of friends I haven't met yet. Being alone is lonely. Let's work together and be friends. Sorry, what did they say? I won, I said, not quite able to take it all in.
I won, Eleron!
Said my wife Airglow, the Mrasianbrat hybrid, hugging me so tight I thought I was about to spend the shortest term of any president. She was the sort of person whose personality would have easily filled up a room, had she not already been about the biggest thing in it.
You won, Eleron! You even beat the Belobrat!
I beat the... what? How? They've won every intergalactic election that's ever been held.
Yes,
said Airglow.
but they didn't have a fast-talking, wisecracking, beautiful life partner beside them now, did they? We're going to be so brilliant together, you and I. I've been practicing my regal wave for the first intergalactic broadcast all day. I can't believe I'm finally going to get to use it.
My boss from the Peace Party on Mars, actually my former boss, as I now realise with a momentary tug of grief, Alioth, stood at my side, grinning.
See, my second in command, what did I tell you? The universe is ready for our brand of peace at last. It's your destiny to spread your wings beyond Mars. You've always had the widest horizons of anyone I know, despite being confined here all your life. Now's your chance to prove what you can do with your theories of intergalactic unity and cooperation.
But I'm not ready. I never expected to win. You are so much better equipped to run the universe than I am. Can't you take the job for me? I asked Alioth, quite honestly.
Oh, it wasn't me they voted for. That would be unconstitutional. But besides, I never expected you would lose.
Alioth looked lost in thought.
Seriously, Eleron, it's the perfect ending. After losing your family in the quest for peace, you have a unique perspective that people want to hear. What you've been through made you a celebrity, and what you have to say matters to people in a way that people of my generation, who still think in terms of cities, not planets, ever could. You also say it very well, perhaps because I was your teacher.
He finished jokingly. But I was a baby, I said. I don't remember most of what happened on Mars back then. Plus, that was decades ago. Why would anyone listen to what I had to say now? Seriously, I only stood so I could work with the Belobrats and learn more for when I came back to work with you. I never expected to become president of the entire universe.
But when you did,
smiled Alioth, giving me a hug.
As I knew you would. You underestimate yourself, Eleron. You always did. I'm so proud of you. You're going to be brilliant.
I'm so sorry, I'm finding myself saying to my mentor. I feel as if I'm walking out on you.
Nonsense.
Alioth scoffed.
You've done wonders for Mars in the past 30 years. We can't keep it to ourselves now, can we? It's not the Mrasianart way to be greedy.
But why me, I asked, my head still whirling and trying to take it all in. The universe blooming well wanted to change, that's why, said Auntie C, giving me one of her special Clundersprod hugs, which didn't seem to be diminishing with age. They're fed up of the same old when Belobrat's in charge, telling them what to do. You're a hybrid species with a unique way of seeing the world, with a big heart and an open mind and a liking for long speeches. What's not to appeal about after so many years of the same rush comments about knowing our place over and over again? I always knew this day would come, Eleron. You might well be the first person ever in the universe to have truly been brought up as an intergalactic citizen, with so many guardians from most of the planets in the universe as your friends and babysitters. And we're all so proud of you, even the ones of us that aren't here anymore. Why, when I think of Oberon, Sprod rest his soul, and what this would have meant to him, I could weep with joy. I so could. It's a chance for a whole new chapter in the history of civilization. The dark storm clouds are over. Peaceful reign. Happiness is forever. We're at the start of a great and illustrious, bountiful empire. Careful, I said, laughing. I still need to actually do something first before you start eulogising me, or I'll turn into a Belobrat. Oh, I'm so happy. Everything is working out at last. I already have my lovely wife and my fine family and friends all around me, but now I have my dream career too. Things couldn't be better.
They're calling you, Eleron,
said Altair, a long-standing family friend. Sorry, so they are. I'm so surprised and unprepared. I never for a hypersecond thought I'd win. I'd almost forgotten I would have to make a speech. You're being great, said Auntie C. I always think back to when your mum first told me she was having you. It only feels a few pages ago, even though it's been eons. And how sure I was you were going to be amazing, extraordinary, magnificent, brilliant. I cut her off, laughing. Not now, Auntie C. Save it for the midterms, I said, laughing, as I walked out into the mass of reporters, many of them linked to us over the Universal, the Mirage communication invention that had now been exported to all our neighbours, and walked up to a lectern that had been laid out for me. Ladies and gentlemen of the known universe, nearly sentient algebraics, I'm sorry, I really don't know what to say. It's going to take a long time for this all to sink in. As my fellow Mrasianarts will tell you, it took a lot of nagging for me to stand for the post of intergalactic president, as inexperienced as I feel I still am, and I am honoured and humbled by your confidence in me. I've really enjoyed my time looking after my fellow Mrasianarts, and I can't wait to look after the rest of you fine species too. I have so many different ideas of the universe throbbing away inside my head, but for now I'm going to leave you with one simple message that I hope will sum up my presidency. We are better when we are at peace, and we are at our most peaceful when we are bettering ourselves. The reporter stood up and announced herself.
Claudia, Thunderstruck Chronicle, why do you think your campaign won over the others, Eleron? And how will you manage working with your fellow political leaders from the other parties now that they have lost and have to work in the other direction?
Oh, that's simple, I said. I admire my fine colleagues greatly, and I know that they all share my vision and passion for the universe in this wonderfully exciting new era of peace and hopefully prosperity for all. As for why I won, well, I hope that my record on Mars speaks for itself. That's really a question you ought to ask the voters, though, not me. All I did was try to show my vision to you and get as many of you from around the universe as on board as possible. I'm beyond thrilled to be able to tell you that so many seem to believe in my vision too.
Odysseus, Belobrat Bugle,
said the second reporter.
In practical terms, where do you see the universe at the end of your time in office, in 10 years or so?
In much the same place as it's always been, I said, laughing. Expanding. I doubt any one being can have much of an impact on a universe as big as this one somehow. Particularly with 10 whole species out there. My role is pretty small, really. I just hope that life will be maybe just a little better still for everyone, and hopefully no worse.
Merciless, terraformed,
said a third.
What now?
And then he added,
What now?
just for good measure. Well, I said, if you mean the short term, and I guess the next thing we'll do tonight is have a big party, and then in the morning we should be setting off for Decreeta. It's thrilling being on a new planet, right in the heart of the known universe, designed especially for governing, and specially terraformed by the best Mechion scientists to enable all known life to intermingle on the same planet after all this time. I'm so excited. Look out for my shuttle in the sky, won't you? If you mean long term, then watch this space. I'm going to put as many of my policies to my team as I can, and see which ones work.
Hector, the sun, of the Centauri district,
said the fourth being from Habridas.
Aren't you a little small to be doing the most powerful job in the universe?
Now, it was true that being a hybrid of 2 or 3 of the tiniest species in the known universe, I wasn't exactly on the large side. It was also true that a number of my competitors for the presidential role had also pointed this out during their election campaigns, back when polling was close, comparing my size to the giant strides my Belobrat predecessors had made when it came to international politics. If I'd been honest with myself, it was something that still rankled with me and caused more than a few sleepless nights, but also something I hoped I would never have to answer again after actually getting this job. I practiced a few lines in case this ever came up, however. I don't see anything in the job description that says the leader of the International Peace Organisation has to be a particular size, I said haughtily. Quite the opposite, in fact. Part of the new Intergalactic Charter all our planets agreed to sign last year is that anyone from any one species or any hybrid species can be president if elected fairly and democratically, as I have been. I would hope that my success on Mars has proved that I think big fine enough. It's my competitors who try to knock me for my size for the small. That showed them, I thought, pleased with myself. There can't possibly be a question harder to answer than that one. A final reporter stood up. He said,
Is it true that the Intergalactic Peace Party is just an absurd stage in the species to make it look as if you're doing something in the name of unity, when really the Peace Party is still secretly run by the Belobrat? There's no real power and nothing really to do.
There was a hush over the audience, including those watching over the Universal. Nonplussed, Marcus continued on.
That's why people say a job is come to you. Someone with almost no experience is just there to talk, and the real job will be done by the same old beings who are always there. After all, peace exists already. All you have to do is maintain.
Well, I said after a long pause, I'm sorry, but I'm honestly not quite sure how to answer that question. After all, if that's true, then no one has told me that yet. I'm all ready to roll up my sleeves on all 4 limbs and go to work. Also, I haven't started in my job yet, so I'm not fully sure how much work there is for me to do, or tell you honestly how much influence I will have. In time, hopefully, you and I will meet again, and I will have a better answer to that question for you. Or better still, will have shown you something concrete that proves how valuable this post is, and how much the universe needs a peace president, whatever species they might hail from, to think in universal terms, not just global ones. For now, all I can do is say that I will give my all to this job, and do everything in power to make sure that the peace we have already stays there. Peace, after all, isn't something we have when we're not at war. I firmly believe that peace is something we have to work hard at, proactively, but wanting it alone isn't enough. There was a pause, long enough for me to wonder if my audience genuinely knew something I didn't. However, it didn't seem very presidential to dwell on it, so instead I decided to be assertive and ploughed on. Now thank you everybody for all your questions. I look forward to answering more and communicating with as many of you as possible once I'm fully settled into my new role and have met my new members of staff. So saying, I walked off the platform to a smattering of light applause from a handful of species who express themselves by such things, and back to Zzz, my friend, a Dewsbury giant who had made a home for herself on Mars, Alioth, and Auntie C. That last question was a bit hard, wasn't it? I said conspiratorially. I expected somebody to chunder about my appointment at some point, but they could at least have given me a chance to sharpen my graphite sticks first.
You only said what everyone was thinking,
said Alioth.
I quite admire him for that, but all the more so for being a fellow Mrasianart, so not exactly known for plain speaking like the Belobrats or the Rections or the Drums.
Ever since the Belobrats and the Peace Party were accused of bribing during their run with armed 350 years ago, people have been wondering whether they were really prepared to be the sign for a new leader from a different world. It's normal to have doubts. It was inevitable after that unfortunate incident involving the ex-president of the Core Climbers Club.
Oh, his predecessor, the Belobrat and her brother, who both dated that habitat film star who died in such mysterious circumstances.
Had it. No, said Auntie C. It was the one before that which caused the Belobrat's downfall, surely. Think of it, a mistress on every planet, in every gender. It's a wonder he had enough time to do his job at all, or remember the names of all his 20 children.
Or the one before that who was always having parties while the rest of the universe was in temporary lockdown from an outbreak of space plague,
said Airglow. She sighed.
How I wish we could have gone to those parties, strutting the night away without a care in the world, while beings were dying in mass numbers. What fun that would have been.
I thought it was my immediate predecessor and her intern, the blonde human, that caused their downfall, I said almost to myself. Blimey, was it 50 years ago already? I remember it like it was just a few pages ago. How Amathea thought he could rule us all like a human tyrant, and how we all overthrew him with music. And my dad gave his life for the cause. How you Horace so much. Alioth smiled.
Whoever voted for you and why, voted for you they did, Eleron. Never forget that. Out of every being, out of quadrillions in the universe eligible to put themselves forward, they voted for you. Eleron would have been immensely proud of you. You're the first candidate to truly stand for everyone, not just a single world. And that's a milestone, however much of an impact on the universe you actually get to have.
Or not, I snorted. That reporter had a point. I hope I've not been appointed just so that we're different to the Belobrats of the past, and that's all there is to the job. I still thought they would win outright, despite all the scandals. They've had the most experience of any of us.
Experience of taking bribes in culinary form from around the 10 planets, you mean, as well as all those other scandals.
Thought it's...
It's time for a change now, and you're that change, Eleron.
I ought to go, I said to my friends. I will see you all tonight at our farewell party. This is exciting. We never have parties on Mars. Well, only once a year for Midhaven. They're far too sociable for us introvertebrate types usually. But tonight is different, as so many off-worlders will be there. I can't believe you're actually going, said Auntie C, sniffling into a hanky faster than she could knit it with her 4 opposable hooves, even at their quickest. I've seen you grow up from nothing, Eleron. I'd always vowed to your parents I would look after you, but now I won't be able to anymore. You'll be so far away. As your strong parent, I shall visit you lots and lots though, and I'm only a universal call away. Don't forget that, just pick up the universal and call me. Auntie C, you know where I am. Oh, yes. If we could even get reception, I replied, with a quick apologetic hug. I've heard the rumours about Decreeta. It's such a new planet, it's not so much wireless technology exactly as much as they haven't put any wires in yet. I get a call into you somehow, though. I'm so sad to no longer be with you too, I said, trying to hold back a tear. You've been the best sprout parent anyone could ever have wished for, my dearest Auntie C. But I know you like travelling. You're free to come and go as you please. Decreeta will be much better placed than Mars is for travelling to the 10 planets, being right at the heart of the universe. I look forward to it, she sniffled. You'll be sick of the sight of your Auntie C. You'll see me so often. Never, I laughed, giving her another hug. Have I really done the right thing in taking this job? I said sadly, the worried human side of me that my friends call my glooman side kicking in, as it had umpteen times since putting myself up for this new position.
You betcha, said Auntie C. It will be the making of you and give you something else to think about other than your small life here. Your mum always hoped you'd travel when the interstellar aircraft came in and made travelling so much easier and quicker. I always thought one day I'd join her. Maybe I will go back and see Singer as free again one last time. Assuming you do take up your presidential role, of course. Otherwise, I could never show my face again.
I smiled. Auntie C always knew how to get me to do something I wasn't completely sure about doing, by mentioning Eleanor or Oberon and what my mum and dad would have thought of me, or simply using emotional blackmail. It had taken me a long time to see through this habit of hers, but I had now, after 50-odd years. I still worried though. Was I really up for this challenge? And just how much of a challenge would it really be? It felt like everyone I had been up against in this election had so much more experience, nous, intelligence and ideas than me. I hadn't been at all sure about putting myself up for the job, but, well, it wasn't like Mraz really needed me anymore, and the chance to not just meet but work with all those different species and incredible political brains really appealed to me. If I could just channel the best of what each of us had to offer, we could do so much good. Would I still feel the same after I met them all, though? I had been warned that not all politicians from other worlds were as authentic as Mrasianarts tended to be. What you saw was what you got with us, even if we were kinder about showing it than some other species out there. And was that comment true, that I was just being given the job as lip service, because people knew about my background and the role I had planned in gaining peace on Mraz, as small as it was? The doubt that had been running unspoken in my thoughts ever since putting myself up for the job 6 months ago had risen to the surface again, thanks to that damned reporter. He could at least have given me one night off from worrying. But then I knew that he was only doing his job, holding a mirror up to what's going on. And now I would have to do mine as best I could. I put a brave face on things and tried to get ready for the farewell party. Somehow, though, at the back of my mind, it felt more like a commiseration than a celebration. An ending rather than a beginning.
Here, Eleron,
said Alief, leading me by the wing outside, while Egra possessively took hold of the other. They led me to a banquet that had been prepared out in the open air, in Mraz's National Park, right next to the statues of my mother and father that had been built many years ago now. There were so many people there to see me, Mrasianarts mostly, of course, being the locals, but also the surviving members of the International Peace Orchestra, who came in every size, shape and species under any sun, some of them tiny like me, and crammed under the massive table, others that dwarfed it and made the table look as small as a toy. "This isn't replication food," I said with surprise, to which Alief laughed.
only the best of the new intergalactic president. We ship some of it from the other planets.
Especially the Columbus Monty. I insisted,
said Auntie C, who was sat next to me, and was busy knitting me a jumper that read, "Good luck, Eleron," in 10 different languages.
Do you like it?
Said Eglo, sitting on my other side, and who was positively beaming next to me, her face breaking into the widest and prettiest smile this side of the universe.
Oh, I've so been looking forward to this. My first party in decades. It was my idea. I organised it specially. I think it's all turned out rather fine. This is the best party that Mraz has ever seen.
Well, Mars only has 2 parties a century, so that should be easy.
Scoffed Alioth, before Egro pressed on his foot with her tail and made him jump.
Oh,
I saw like 20th century Earth music like too.
Said Altair. "Oh, fantastic. You found something by the Beatles. Or at any rate the Earth version of the Beatles," I said, listening to the strains of Across the Universe playing out of 6 giant speakers. "Now I know this is a real party."
Egro borrowed some of your tapes. We've got some all at random. We hope you don't mind. We were hoping to do a few rehearsals with the Peace Orchestra. Now that you're swapping one IPA for another.
Said Altair.
But, well, some of the others have been off for so long. We sounded terrible when we went up for rehearsals. We thought you wouldn't mind if we listened to your favourite music for a change.
"I'll say," I said, as Paul Mrasianart and his insect wingses, Venus and Mraz, started playing. The Earth might lag behind the rest of us in other ways, but they had all the best songwriters. I'm so glad my mum brought her record collection with her when she emigrated here. This album especially. Fancy writing about our planet back when Earth only knew about their own poxy solar system, before they even knew we existed. Oh, this is so wonderful, I said, almost in human tears. To have the best job in the universe, to have so many of my friends around me. I must be the luckiest person, human or Mrasianart, in the whole universe.
No,
Laughed Aglo.
that's me. I'm married to the luckiest human Mrasianart in the universe. He's going to make me a star. Come on, Eleron, let's show off what we can do.
And she dragged me out to the dance floor, just as Wings neatly segued into rock show. Holding her in my wings right then was exhilarating, as the tensions of the past few weeks of hard slog making broadcasts from Mraz's town hall evaporated clean away. I love you, I said to Aglo, as Loving Song started playing slow, and I leant my head on the bigger shoulders. Thank you for being by my side, come what may.
My pleasure, husband.
Glenned Agro.
Where else would I be? Better together, as you always say to me. We'll boss those other planets around, no problem. You see if we don't. You look a bit tired though, Eleron. Perhaps you ought to sit down. This Earth rock and roll could be a bit too fast for Mrasianart.
Perhaps I had, I admitted weakly as she led me to my seat. All those long nights are beginning to catch up with me as well. Echo blew me a kiss, then danced away, laughing and posing for all the cameras she could find, as I found Auntie C, looking melancholy.
I'm going to miss this,
She said, sadly, as the music moved on to Magneto Entertaining Man, and the Mechion at our table started a long and boring discussion about metals peculiar to the Earth and how they would never be able to create superheroes on the planet the way they did on Mechion 5.
All those years growing up on Ziggurat's Free, I thought my clan was the only family I was ever going to have. I've been lucky enough to have you, my real family, all of the Intergalactic Peace Orchestra around me. Well, nearly all.
Her gaze wandered off to the distance, and the fountain where Oberon and Eleanor's statues stood, with Enwyn and Lizzie either side of them. 2 Earthlings, a Mrasianart and a Clandesprod in eternal embrace, as symbols of the universe's recent past. She got out a handkerchief she had knitted earlier, and started to cry. Fair, I said, trying to comfort my adopted parent. They lived good lives. Eleanor even lived a long one by human standards. I'm so sorry to leave you here without them, though.
Why do the lifetimes of other beings have to be so short? Wailed Auntie C. Your mum and dad had so much to do still, both of them. There were so many planets to explore, so many books to write, so much music to play, so many insurgencies to spearhead. They could have gone anywhere and been anything, and now I'll never know what it was they could have achieved. And now I'm losing you too, though at least you still get to find out what you can do, Eleron.
You're not losing me forever, I said. Not like that. You already said you'd come and visit.
Oh, said Auntie C, looking sad. That was just in front of the others. I'm getting old now, Eleron. I'm not sure I could.
Nonsense, I said. You're not even middle-aged for a Clandesprod. I can start a whole new life on a brand new world, and surely you can just visit your old one. Auntie C looked past me into the distance.
Maybe I'll live long enough to see you have Mrasianbrat. That would be nice.
I sighed. You sound like Mum. Well, let's see if we can save the universe first, before we start adding to it. We both looked to where Airglow was the life and soul of the party, balancing a different coloured tea cosy on all her 3 heads, and giggling, waving her 3 arms in the air, trying her best to get what remained of the Intergalactic Peace Orchestra to sing along with her, and pretending, very badly, not to have noticed the Universal photographers trying to take pictures of our last meal together. She was surprisingly graceful for her size, and though I said so to myself, devastatingly gorgeous, despite the unplanned clash of species DNA spread across her features. Auntie C leaned towards me, whispering quietly as Wings moved on to letting go.
It might help her, you know, having someone else to think about. That girl has a really dodgy ego problem. Goodness knows what the world's media will make of it all.
I sighed. She's become so sure of herself and extra confident lately, just as I've begun to doubt myself. I suppose it makes for a good contrast to my neuroses. I wouldn't have got this far without her pushing me. Auntie C snorted.
Are you sure she wasn't just pushing herself for her own ends to get everybody's attention?
We watched as Airglow picked up a nearby tablecloth and used it as a shawl while balancing a crown of cream horns on her head, which to the protest of the Dewsbury giants who had been at that moment intending to scoff him. Was all I managed to say before she picked up his entree and started waving them around in time to the music.
It's all going to be fine, said Auntie C soothingly. You'll see, Eleron. You worry too much.
The Mrasianart's innermost worries are really wrong too, though, I replied. And I have a nagging feeling in my bones right now too, that this might not be the best thing for either of us. Together we watched as Airglow lit a barbecue on the tablecloth to keep herself warm, as the Glabderharded guests squeaked in fear and rolled themselves up into a ball, while the Dewsbury giants huffed and puffed and put the flames out. I had been so sure that I would lose this election that I had gone ahead and booked a never-mind session at the shop of my favourite local fortune teller, where I had planned to discuss future plans with her. This was a normal pastime on Mars, and something everybody did daily after a while living there. After all, without much industry or commerce on the planet to speak of, the best most of us could offer the world in terms of international trade was in fortunes. I like to say in my speeches that whereas other planets look to the present, and occasionally the past for guidance, Mars was the only planet that spent so much of its time looking towards the future. Given that I had now won and was in a celebratory mood, I almost cancelled my appointment. But, well, this would be my last bit of peace and quiet for a while, and in truth I was privately eager for some reassurance that I wouldn't be as poor a president as I feared. The teller knew me well, and barely looked up when I walked in. Instead she stared at the cards in front of her, a few of which I noticed from the special endurance or species deck, the hanged Habradat fast asleep with his tail feathers in a noose, the Mrasianart magician chirping like a cricket, or coming up with all sorts of magic spells, the Camalosian chariot decorated with lots of spidery writing, the Mechion moon, part organic, part technology, the High Dewsbury Fund, celebrating all the finest things in life, the human fool never quite sure of his place in the universe, the 8 of clans, symbolised by 8 Clandersprods all having a drink, the 4 of McGrumps with 2 swords in their hooves and 2 in their antlers, the 9 of Glabderhardits navigating their way past the scary-looking forest made up of wands, and the Universal Tower was powerful enough to crack all 10 known planets down to their inner core. The teller then held my wing and studied it before staring at me intensely, the way only Mrasianarts can do.
You will go on a great journey.
Well, I said, that's certainly true. My bags are all packed for Decreeta, although you probably read about that in the papers.
No,
She said, smiling as if I'd said something funny.
not that sort of a journey. Not a physical journey at all. Inner space, not outer space, as we Mrasianarts often say.
That makes sense, I said, thinking her advice over. This is not your usual sort of a job.
And you are not the usual sort of a president.
She paused, as if weighing up whether to tell me more or not.
Things are not what they seem, Eleron. There are already those around you who will take advantage of your good heart, and others more who will do so before the end of the week is out. Do be careful and be on your guard. Do not harm, and take no nonsense with them.
Well, that's normal in politics, I suppose, I replied, especially working with off-worlders for the first time.
No,
She said, staring at me even more intensely.
that's not quite what I meant. You will be back home on Mars before you expect to, but to those who knew you then, you will not be the same person at all. Even on Decreeta, when you glance in the mirror, you won't recognise what you see. Once you leave this planet, there is a threshold which, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. Only when you return home and come to see me again will you truly realise this, and who you really are. But you will take many journeys before then, in all meanings of the word.
Well, I said feebly, I suppose we do say travel broadens the mind, and I do want to travel to as many cultures as I can. Before I go, please tell me, what advice can you give me?
Set your boundaries,
She said.
and then keep them, in all things, against everyone and everything. Don't fully trust anyone, for not everyone sees the universe the way you do.
It was later on that same night, and finally all the noise and hustle and bustle had died away, until it was just me and Airglow and our tiny little house with its simple 2 stories. This was sited round the back of my childhood home, and right next to Auntie C's, a house we would in all likelihood not see again for another term of office, barring holidays perhaps. It was full of mirrors on every surface, from floor to wall to ceiling, and Airglow was studying herself in one now, posing for imaginary cameras she hoped would soon be taking a picture, now she was the most important life partner on the planet. These mirrors, which had been specially imported in from Helisphere, were unique to Belobrat. Instead of reflecting back what was really there, as creatures on Mars, Earth and Mechion tended to do, it distorted the way everything looked, so that it made the person reflected seem bigger, bolder, more confident. It all seemed alien to my Mrasianart way of thinking, but that my wife was part alien, as I reminded myself every day, and for that matter so was I, just a different half. I had been rather alarmed to see how many of his mirrors had been packed by Airglow to hang in the new home on Decreeta, but my wife owned so many of them there were more than a few left over still in their old house.
That's gorgeous,
She murmured to herself absent-mindedly. I had expected to be sad at this moment in time, with so much coming to an end. So excited was I at the prospect of what was to come, that I couldn't help turning round to my wife and grinning. You were having fun last night,
I'll say.
said Airglow.
That party was so good. I've always wanted to have one. A real party with dancing and music and people, and not just at Midhaven. I wish our people didn't have to spend so much time lost in their own thoughts. It does us good to let go every now and then. Even you, Eleron.
I'm not sure about that, I said, laughing. Hanging on in quiet desperation is the Mrasianart way, after all. But yes, I think we deserve some sort of celebration after all our hard work.
It was the best night of my life,
smiled Airglow. The best night of your life so far, I smiled back at her. Oh, Airglow, to think we have a whole new life ahead of ourselves, on a whole new planet. All my life I've craved fulfillment, to follow in my parents' footsteps, and after shuffling around for so long now, I'm really making strides. Just think how much good I might be able to do for everyone. Not just our fellow Mrasianarts, but everyone. To think I have the single best job in the universe.
The second?
Laughed Airglow, hurling herself into my arms.
But I've got the best. I get to stand beside you and watch you while you do it. It's going to be brilliant. I'm going to be brilliant. I'm so sick of being stuck on this planet where nobody ever talks to each other or makes small talk. I can't wait to meet the whole universe. What parties do you think I'll be invited to, Eleron? How many friends will I make? How many awards do you think I'll win? I'm going to be First Lady. Me, first.
I laughed with Airglow's enthusiasm, although for me I was more worried about the things the other way round. How I might cope with more boisterous species intruding into my thoughts after a lifetime of introversion. Still, I was looking forward to the learning process, if nothing else. I was worried how my wife would react, though, after decades of only knowing about other civilizations from books and films. It might not be quite what you expect, I said, trying to keep her expectations low, as I tried to across the whole of my campaign. Decreeta is a new terraformed planet. It won't be glamorous. There won't be all that many visitors. There will probably be less appearances for you to make than on Mars. That's only the beginning, though, of course. In time, everyone will want to meet you, and we can set about moulding our political elite just the way we want it. No more Belobrat corruption. We can set our rules and do things our way at last, the universal way. That's a point, I said to myself. I wonder if Decreeta will have the universal installed if the planet is so new.
It will still be so wonderful.
Airglow infused, admiring herself in the mirror above the bed. But if I'm being honest, always made me feel slightly queasy. It seemed to do my wife no end of good.
Me, the most important spouse in the universe. Do you think I've packed enough to wear?
In a quieter voice, she asked quiveringly.
Do you think they'll like me?
I laughed back. They'll love you, just like they do on Mars, and just as I do, every single part of you. Airglow's face was always easy to read, and never more than now, as a look of sudden panic washed across it.
Are you sure I won't embarrass you? I mean, all those dignitaries have all been doing this sort of thing longer than me. I'd hate to bring disgrace to you, Eleron. I'm worried I'll say the wrong thing.
Silly Billy Belobrat, I said, hugging her tight in my arms. We always said being alone is lonely. Well, I'm not about to break that idea now. Why, I wouldn't have got where I am without you. You're the sunlight to my moonglow, the extrovert to my introvert, the optimist to my pessimist. I wouldn't have got anywhere near where I am today without you by my side. And you remember what the Mrasian Chronicle said about you last year? You might not always say the most diplomatic thing, but you always know exactly what needs to be said, and you say it. I rely on you, Airglow. We make a great team, you and me. We're so different, but we always want the same things. Airglow smiled back, her conscience temporarily eased.
Go Team Peace.
She was clearly about to say more, but at that moment there was a noise so loud that it startled us and split us apart. Yeah! I was still more jumpy than your average Mrasianart or human both after the attacks on our family home during the time of insurgence, and it didn't take much to startle me, especially the sound of large crowds, which I'd grown to dislike. To my surprise, though, this was an altogether better sound than the baying mob that had killed half my family, and as we peeked out of our curtains, we saw a huge gathering of Mrasianarts chanting songs my parents had once played in the Intergalactic Peace Band, all smiles and waving our peace party's emblem, a white flag with a sea of instruments from lots of different cultures on it, interlocked into a circle. Eglo and I went outside, and I marvelled again at the way she could just win over a crowd straight away with her charisma, as she danced, smiling, grabbing all the attention, while I shook hands, flippers, hooves and wings, paws and claws with my fellow Mrasianart citizens in an extended goodbye I wish could have lasted forever. As much as I tried to concentrate on saying farewell to all the people I'd grown to love over my lifetime, I only had eyes for her. She was so gorgeous. I was so very lucky. I didn't know why she ever doubted herself. She could see how everybody loved her, and how sad my fellow Mrasianarts were to see her go. Far more than they were to see the back of me. I longed to bottle up whatever it was that she possessed in rare, precious and beautiful moments like this one, so that at times when she stopped believing in herself, I could remind her how dazzlingly brilliant, charismatic and perfect she could be. How, though, would she cope on an alien world without an audience? Did I really have the right to take her away with me and starve her of their attention? For Eglo was very different to me, inward and brooding and worried, half scared of the universe, only when it wasn't actually looking. She was an actor who needed her audience, and there might not be as many opportunities for one where we were going. Still, like all good Mrasianarts, I trusted in the cosmic plan that things would all work out fine. That night, the last of my old familiar bed, with Eglo contentedly smiling beside me, I felt altogether more sober and sank into my insomnia, almost with relief, greeting it like an old friend. The day had been such a whirlwind of celebration I had almost forgotten what a serious job was at hand. I was getting too far into my head, so I did what I always did when troubled and disassociated, straining to see myself as others saw me, to put my fears and doubts in perspective. What did I seem like to your average onlooker? Perhaps a little naive, but that was no bad thing, I thought. Hopefully I seemed nice, perhaps friendly, certainly committed. No one outside Mraz knew much about what I could do yet, and for that matter nor did I. But surely that was the same for all presidents entering their first day of office. Nothing to get too worked up about. I would have plenty of opportunities yet to show off what I could do. I wondered again why my policies had broken through intergalactic barriers, where others had not. If I'd been on Earth, they would have surely called me the socialist candidate. On Helisphere I would have been the Belobrat's worst enemy, convinced that no planet was any more special than any of the others. On Mekion 5 they dismissed me as an illogical, naive, innocent dreamer. On Glabdahardit as a dangerous candidate, spearheading change. And where change, as well as everything else, was downright scary. On Habridas a busybody. On Camelosia an indecipherable mess of emotions. On the blunt reality-driven world of Mgrumphus as the most alien to have ever lived. On Zigguras Frevo, the Clandesprod seemed to mostly respect my talk of uniting people across planetary boundaries. At home I was a safe and comforting pair of wings. On Earth, even divided as it was, many people seemed to like and respect me. To most people, that is to say the ones who weren't necessarily the majority anywhere, but the sizable minority on every planet, I sounded merely like one of them, hopeful, if worried, with the interests of the common alien at heart. Nothing more and nothing less, the closest they could come to voting one of themselves into power. Realising that I was disassociating to the point where I wasn't even in bed anymore, but levitating above it the way Mrasianarts did sometimes, I rolled over in the air, trying to get back to sleep. I had been sure of my vision till now, though admittedly not sure enough to think I would win, mainly that I would get enough votes to work as part of this crack team on the new planet of Decreeta. Now, though, as I lay there, surrounded by the few remnants of our old life we had left behind, to make way for the new, I panicked. It had been all well and good when I had expected to be working as an equal under a great leader, chipping in ideas and support when needed. Now, though, I wasn't the support act, but the main feature. That wasn't my personality at all, but Eglo's. I truly didn't know if I could carry it off, especially against so many brains more brilliant, wise and experienced than my own that would be forced to follow my lead. All this time I had been campaigning, I had been thinking of the people I would represent, not the beings I would have to work with, and what I probably knew more off-worlders than most Mrasianarts, thanks to my friends and past babysitters in the peace orchestra. I certainly hadn't worked with all of the species in a professional setting before. I most certainly hadn't worked with people I had just beaten to my dream job. Would they like me? Be jealous of me? My unusual genetics, half Mrasianart on my father's side and half human on my mother's side, had made me more empathetic than most, perhaps even more erudite than some too if I was allowing myself my own egotistical Belobrat moment. However, it had also made me more afraid than most Mrasianarts, who generally didn't care what others thought about them, and most humans, who seemed oblivious what people really thought of them most of the time. Me, though, I hated being disliked by anyone, and I found it really difficult coping with the dirty and constant snipers, bullets of politics, the very opposite of the peace and harmony I sought. Would I be tough enough to get my vision across against so many bullish characters? Would anyone even listen to what I had to say? Thank goodness I had Aglo there at least, someone supportive, and I knew inside out and trusted. But would that be enough against beings from 9 other worlds? I sighed. Well, it was a bit late to worry about that now, I told myself. I was effectively the leader of the universe now, and, temporarily at least, the most important single person in it. I would have to swallow my doubts and fears, and at least act as if I knew what I was doing. The only problem was how the two of us, it was Aglo who was the natural actor. I was only ever good at being myself. Suddenly merely being myself didn't seem enough anymore. My worries still unresolved. I was disassociating, so that my body half rose on the bed. I finally drifted off into a fruitless sleep, full of images of being half crushed by ballot boxes, intergalactic press conferences with faulty microphones that meant no one could hear me, and playing cards with a cabinet of people that I kept shuffling, but which turned out to be made up solely of jokers.
Coastal Eleron, Universal Food Cell Entry 4-75384/638/AYB, Intergalactic Peace Organisation, Official Office Supplies. Headline, my first day at work. Retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
The final farewell celebrations came and went far too fast. Before I knew what was happening, there we were, Aglo and I, being ushered into the official pilotless speed shuttle that had come to take us to Decreeta, waving goodbye to all our friends, and Auntie C, who was crying again. An uneventful voyage later, filled with decidedly nervous and faltering small talk, and there we were, on the surface of a brand new planet. Rather than stay to take in my surroundings, I felt a pressing need to move on. Come on, Aglo, quick, before this freezing wind gets us.
I thought this planet had been terraformed. It's going to get my beautiful new hairdo all ruffled.
Aglo shouted to me through the wind. I held back. Only for a few months. This planet's had several millennia of being like this. It's going to take time to get it completely ready for habitation. I've only fully done the part of our planet our headquarters are in. Half of politics is patience, remember? Even through the wind and rain, I could hear the sarcasm in her voice.
Yeah, and the other half of politics is getting stuff done, so do something about it and quick.
The winds of Decreeta weren't like those of Mars at all. Back home the breeze was only ever calm, almost thoughtful, but here it was like a wild, ferocious storm that befitted a world that no creature had ever set foot in until a few years ago, and which was only chosen for its close proximity to all the 10 inhabited planets. Even the best mechie on terraforming, clandestine building technology, and Camalosian landscaping combined had barely made a dent on the land surface. A reminder of how new even the oldest of our cultures still was in the grand scheme of things. The notion might make a good speech one day, I thought to myself, but for now survival made it a moot point. My companion, wrapped up in the best clandestine shawls, pouted.
Eleron, I still don't see why we have to end up in this freezing cold country, on this freezing cold planet, in this freezing cold sector of the universe.
I studied her with concern, raising my voice over the biting wind. I'm so sorry. I knew it would be hard, but... well, it's not too late, you know. I didn't really want this job. I just sort of fell into it. We could go back home, return to a tiny one-floor house somewhere, and put our feet and tails up. Aglo tossed her head back.
And go back to our old way of life, as nobody's? Not likely. I'm destined to be a somebody. Come on then, let's go if we're going.
With a sudden surge, Eglo walked past me on her 6 legs. We both made our way to a big wooden door that had suddenly risen its way out of the smog. This door was specially imported from Earth, I discovered later, which looked incongruous against what I recognised as a feat of Mechicon engineering, with Clandesprod technology incorporated roughly into the structure, plus a top floor that was clearly Belobrat by design, brash and colourful, set against the metallic and crystalline structure of the bottom half. It was like a giant egg, with wires sticking out of it, that looked as if it might blow over at any moment, and with a series of ivory towers from the local Belobrat quarries that seemed to have been plastered on at random, clumsily, over the top. So this was to be our new home. Well, at least we wouldn't mistake this distinctive-looking building for our neighbour's house, the way we had a home where Mraz buildings all looked the same till you got up close and noticed the colour of their owners' auras. And at least we would be inside, looking out, I suppose, rather than outside, looking in.
You got here from Mraz, okay then?
Said the Habredat at the door, who introduced himself as Horace, and looked down at us, figuratively and literally, given that we were several feet smaller than him, with Eglo about a foot taller than me, thanks to a part Belobrat heritage. Eglo held her wing out, waiting for a kiss that never came. Instead, Horace just fixed a haughty gaze with his even haughtier one.
Yes, and after a week of that terrible contraction, I never want to go anywhere else ever again,
Muttered Eglo.
Please tell me it's all better inside.
I wouldn't like to answer that question just yet. We might both leave again,
said Horace as he led us indoors. I could see why. This building may have only been a decade or so old, but it was clearly in serious need of repairs, thanks to the constant erosion of the Decreetian elements. There were already holes in the ceiling where the wind whistled through, ill-fitting doors that didn't conjoin onto their walls properly, and where perhaps an over-eager Dewsbury giant had once crashed through them, and several clashing paint jobs depending on each department's home species, and the point where their selected offices ended. Eglo took one look at this mess, so different to the order and structure of home, stared in horror, folded all 3 arms, and declared,
This is not becoming a First Lady of Space. I'm going back to sit in the shuttle. Get things sorted, Eleron. Or else.
Before storming back there again. But how on Mars was I ever going to do that? This was our home now. We had come too far to think otherwise. Giving my apologies to Horace, I followed her.
Why are we on this godforsaken planet anyway?
Asked Eglo later, back in the shuttle, with her hands wrapped around a mug of Clandesprod tea, after a long session coaxing her, and it wasn't as bad as she might have supposed. Honest. I didn't know if she had genuinely forgotten or was just making conversation, but then I was never entirely sure how much of my job or universal politics in general she had taken in, so I decided to give one of what she called my little speeches. Even if it didn't cheer her up, maybe it would work on me. Well, my little Mrasianbrat, as you well know, I've long held the vision of my father that the universe would work in peace one day. It's what he lost his life fighting for, after all. With your help, with everyone's help, I've managed to do quite a lot in his name on Mraz, but when the opportunity came up to do something wider in the universe, to be part of helping all 10 planets, I couldn't let that go. And you said it would be good for us, for you. Eglo harumphed so hard I wondered just for a split second if she was part Mrgrumph as well as part Mrasianart and part Belobrat.
Couldn't we have just moved to Helisphere and moved into the old building? It looked plush, and I wouldn't have minded moving to where my father came from.
We'll visit very soon, I hope. As for being plush, well, that was a problem really. A lot of the universe's money was being spent on the peace headquarters, yet only the Belobrat seemed to be getting anything out of it. One of the Belobrats thought he was better than the others and became a whistleblower, revealing all the corruption and mistakes that were rife in their handling of various intergalactic affairs, especially after our Intergalactic Peace Orchestra came along and changed the political landscape. It was shocking. So many criminal acts were committed by beings who were being entrusted with people's care, all over our part of the universe. However, what the Belobrat's talking didn't realise, because he thought he was better than everyone else, was that the blame would fall on him too, and he wouldn't get the intergalactic job he hoped for either. All of those scandals rather kibosh the idea that only Belobrats had any particular right to rule the universe just because they were bossy and naturally assumed they did. So, because Helisphere had done so well out of all the Belobrat trade deals, it was decided that never again would one planet have so much power over all the others. The panel they put together deliberated long and hard about where to put the headquarters, but every planet just kept voting for their own world. Instead, it was decided that there would be one elected official from each species assigned to a new planet to work together right in the heart of the universe, as close as they could get to each of the 10 planets, with one intergalactic president elected to oversee them all. And now, my love, that intergalactic president is me. It's an honour to be here, at the start, or near the start. The last Belobrat president started here, but he wasn't here very long. Well, we get to be the first presidential household to put our stamp on not just the headquarters and the planet, but the whole universe, to reshape in our ideal, which is peace and prosperity and equality to all. Now, with all that glory weighing on our shoulders, surely we can put up with a little bit of hardship and wonky handiwork.
I know all that,
Eglo snapped back.
but nobody told me it would be quite like this. But if we're going up in the world, shouldn't our circumstances be more glamorous with it?
I sighed and prepared to remind her of everything I'd warned her about, repeatedly. People didn't want to be seen to be spending money this time around, after what happened in the bad old days of last year, when everyone was using intergalactic taxes to heat their stables and algebra ponds. So we didn't. Remember, this is all new, so we're still finding out as a collective community whether it will work or not on a new planet. The people want a fresh start, so that's exactly what we've got. Just think, we're at the cutting edge of things here. Eglo pulled a face and pointed at the jagged door frame behind her.
Yes, but I never realised the cutting edge would be quite so cutting, particularly the budget. After all, it's impractical. How's a clan squad supposed to get through that door? Or even a purebred Belobrat? I doubt you'll get a Dewsbury giant who would even fit on this miserable tiny planet.
Through the skylight, maybe, I said, thinking it over. I guess I'm in charge of it now. I'll see what I can do. The better the decor, the more respect we'll have. Maybe you'd like to oversee it if you're looking for something to do here. You have the best eye for that of anyone I know, and you have 6 of them after all. You're perfect. Instead of 10 different paint schemes thrown together, we could find one that merges a little of everything. Eglo grimaced.
What do I know about decorating? I married a politician, not a painter.
But underneath she was smiling, and I could tell she was giving the idea some thought. Phew, I thought, that might be just what she needs to keep her from missing Mraz. Give it a try, I said. Please. If you go back now, the papers are sure to ask you why, and it'll look bad on both of us. I thought out loud, the way I often did. Why, it would be brilliant if we could have a painting of all of us, working together as a team to replace those Belobrat tapestries of old that retold our universe's story from their point of view. Just think, 10 different views of the universe meeting in the middle of the room in combined harmony. I came to from my vision, to see Eglo's perplexed face looking back at me. Or, whatever you want. After all, if this is going to be where we live from now on, then the more home-like it feels, the better, and it would never be a home without you there too, I continued. I hated myself for the corny line, but it seemed to work.
All right,
My wife said.
I'll try. But I'm starting with our rooms first. I'm not putting up with any Belobrat decorating them.
The second most difficult job of the day done, I turned my attention back to the first. It had seemed like a good idea when it was suggested to me. 10 of the greatest political minds, or at least the 10 greatest that could be spared, all working together for the good of everybody on a brand new planet. However, in practical terms, I had already foreseen more than a few problems. For security reasons, I had not been told who any of the 10 were until those election results had been read out yesterday. And of course, I wasn't fully paying attention to any name except my own. All I had read were their planetary manifestos, most of which seemed to be roughly like mine, but only time would tell if they were alike enough to back up my vision. I could already foresee a clashing of styles, the me-firstness of the Belobrat, the laissez-faire philosophy of the Habridats, the let's-run-away agenda of the Glabdahardits, the stuff-for-lot-of-you diplomacy style of the Magrumps, the pure unemotional logic of the Mechions, the alfresco of the Dewsbury Giants, the teamwork of the Clandusprods, the bureaucracy of the Camalosians, the whatever it was of Earth, and the spiritual first viewpoint of our own world. That was just on a global level too, never mind any personal battles and clashes that might be going on without my knowledge. So far in my career, politics had been relatively easy, as mutual minds came together for what we considered the greater good. But here, with so many different ways of thinking, it was all sure to be a bit more alien. All 10 of these leaders had been up for this position. Would the other 9 resent it, now that I had taken over? Would they agree to work for me, under me? Some of them had been doing their work in intergalactic government for years, and were far more experienced than I could ever be. I was a newcomer on the block, still wet behind the wings. Did I really have what it took to bring everybody together as part of a fully functioning team? I suspected that the other 9 species would surely resent me, just a little bit, however professional they were, and however much they believed in peace, as I surely would have resented it just a tiny bit had someone been appointed over me. Like most Mrasianarts, I hated the idea of first appearances. You could only tell a being by looking deeply into its soul, and you couldn't do that on meeting a stranger or down a universal screen. But I knew from my human ancestry how much faith other planets seemed to place stock in them. So, on this short walk from the shuttle back to the main door of the intergalactic headquarters, I tried to undo the damage the wind had caused as much as I possibly could, and to pretend to be as presidential as I possibly could muster in one of the violent winds that had just erupted on Decreeta. This was no mean feat either, with a head of half-human hair like mine. Returning to the front door, I was greeted by Horace, again, who, after kneeling down to reach my height, was raising his considerable feathery habridat eyebrows at me. This was not going well already.
You know, sir, you're even smaller when you looked on the Universal,
he said. I ignored him as best I could, and pulled myself up to my full height.
Are you here to stay this time?
Horace continued. Sorry about that, I said. Bit of a wrench for poor Aglo, leaving everyone on Mars, poor thing. I think it's all a bit of a shock for her.
Indeed, sir,
said Horace coldly. Let's start again. You're...
Vice President Horace Habridat at your service, sir. I came very close to matching your amount of votes, but just didn't quite manage it, for reasons I don't quite yet fathom. You have a large family, perhaps, sir?
Me? No, I admitted, though I do have a lot of friends.
I would explain it, sir,
Horace deadpanned.
I can rest easy now if I think you beat me on a technicality, rather than because you were better at the job than me, for I know that wouldn't be true.
I laughed nervously. Oh, I see. I read your manifesto. I liked it very much. I think we'll be able to do good work together, you and I.
Possibly, sir, possibly,
said Horace, an inscrutable expression on his bird-like face.
At the moment, it's a bit too early to tell.
Not quite sure how to reply to that. I let the sentence drift into the ether. Well, what happens now? I asked, unsure as to what my next move should be.
That's up to you, sir. You are the boss after all.
Did everyone get here okay? We have a full house.
Nearly, sir. We're just waiting on the human delegate, who might be a very long time given the speed of their shuttles,
said Horace.
From Earth,
he added, either helpfully or condescendingly, depending on your point of view. Oh, that's a shame, I said. I do feel that the best way of representing everyone's views is to have everyone actually here, in the same building. Now I won't know what the humans are thinking.
You can get them on the phone, sir,
said Horace.
Eventually, weather permitting. Although I believe that you're part human yourself, so maybe you can fill in their views for them.
Ah, yes, I said, not quite sure why I was embarrassed by that comment. The trouble is, you see, I was brought up on Mars, so I don't really know how they think. As a collective, I mean. The only human I ever knew was my mother. From what I hear, she wasn't like other humans at all.
That explains a lot, sir,
deadpanned Horace. She also told me that no 2 humans she ever met were alike too, so how we go about representing them without a delegate is anyone's guess. Still, it can't be helped. Are they a good team we've got working for us? I asked. The best people for the job, like we were promised? Horace smiled a beaky grin.
That's for the electorate to say, not me, sir.
Well, what time do I have to fit in my interviews? It's very important to start this job off on the right hoof and keep everyone up to date with what we're up to, I said.
Who with?
Said Horace, visibly confused, and the first time I had any sense of his feathers being ruffled. Anyone who wants me. The Clandesprog Chronicle? The Earth's Daily Planet? The McGrumph Mail? Horace shook his head. Really? No one? I just thought, on my first day of office there would be somebody here to interview me, that's all. It's a big deal, surely, being the first official president of the universe's first truly intergalactic organisation.
I don't think anybody really cares, Mr. President. Not now the election has been called. They've all moved on to the next news story,
said Horace thoughtfully.
The peace delegation has been around for centuries after all.
Oh yes, but led by Belobrats on a planet of Belobrats and full of corruption from Belobrats. Now we're here on a new planet for the first time, truly independent from everywhere. I just thought, a small yet positive article I could print out for my office wall about a brave new vision or something like that. Horace studied me thoughtfully.
I can't speak for all planets, of course, but on Mrasianbrat, people like their politics to be out of sight and out of mind, so we don't have to think about them. I doubt there's much interest at all, unless something goes wrong. So let's hope it doesn't. We could just get on with our jobs quietly. That would be the best way. Oh, there might not be much space for your office wall, not to mention the fact that you'd have to build you an office wall, so it would have to be a small article. Just a heads up, sir.
I'm genuinely shocked at this. But how can you say that? Politics is in everything we do, and everything we are, whether you like it or not. And if you don't, then how do you know who to vote out? Horace shrugged.
Voter apathy,
He said.
You get used to it.
But that's your job. Surely you at least must have an interest in politics, given that it's your career, even if your world doesn't. Horace shrugged again.
I took this job because the pay was good, but the hours were short. Nobody really notices what I do, or what any of us do for that matter. I might have done even better if Habitats had been bothered to turn up and vote for me, but they didn't really. People prefer to lie in.
Horace looked wistfully into the distance.
I might have got enough votes to beat you if we'd had more than a 7% turnout on Habitat.
I'm in shock given my own planet's 99% turnout. Politics is a big deal on Mars. People know it affects everything they do, particularly after my mother's memoirs were published posthumously as Insurgents, with its tale of tyrants and oppressors and corruption. People have seen politics as being even more central to their lives.
I haven't read it,
said Horace Budley.
I did start Endurance once. I fell asleep before we ended the first part. Not really my thing. Too much concentration needed for it. I like books where I don't have to think much, me.
Oh, my face visibly fell. Horace smiled at me, more kindly than he had been up till now.
I have heard about your connections with one of the two most famous books in the universe. I can understand why they mean a lot to you. Maybe I'll get the audiobook version of both one day. Ha 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 ha! That joke was in the original too, you know. I hear there's a glad to harder version read out in a really squeaky voice, and one where the Dewsbury giant is cooking while she reads it out. For now though, let me show you around the building, and you can meet your new members of staff.
First there was the canteen, which gave me a sinking feeling already. When I had first decided to stand for the presidential position, I had been promised state-of-the-art cooking on tap, but all I found in this room was a collection of the rustiest, dustiest food replicator machines you ever saw. What's all this? I asked Horace.
We got them all cheap, second-hand, from Ziggurat's tree, he said. We are working on a low budget here after all, after the last Belobrat government spent so much money.
But the food? No wonder the intergalactic peace industry has gone downhill. Nobody's in the mood for peace if they eat like this all the time. It's worse than Earth. Horace shrugged.
My manifesto was full of promises for food access for all, but nobody seemed to like it much, aside from the Dewsbury Giants where I got most of my votes. As I seemed to be winning the early voting count, they put me in charge of what to get in the building. I hadn't figured on the people's votes changing the results so much for the international juries.
I tapped him on the shoulder, realising that this had gone far enough. Look, Horace, before we go any further, I'm sorry you didn't win. Horace shrugged.
I'm kind of laid back about it. You soon learn that everyone is out for your job, and everyone is an enemy, till proven otherwise.
I'm alarmed by this. For me it's different. The universe is my friend till proven otherwise. You know, I really wasn't thinking about the people I would need to beat to get this position. I just wanted to put my vision across to the universe, to try my best to see if it could be done. I really hope that you and I and the others, that we can work together to truly represent all of our greatest causes and needs, and that by the end of my time in office we can all be proud of what we've done. Don't think of this as my government with you all helping. See it as our government that we made together. For what it's worth, I agree with you, and would have done the same if I'd won the first count. We can't eat well when some of our people are starving.
It would be like the Belobrat corruption of 2121 all over again. Exactly the sort of thing my parents fought against.
Nice speech.
Horace grinned.
Save some of those fancy words for the electorate.
It seemed to have the right effect, though, as he was much more comfortable with me after that. He was even kind enough to shout "Dog!" to me as one of the food replicator machines malfunctioned, sending a whole wave of earth bananas at us as we decided to leg it to the door. Whew, nevertheless, I puffed outside the door, fixing that machine is my first priority. How on Decreeta did the Belobrats cope if this was how they ate every day?
Oh, that's easy,
said Horace.
As they were allowed expenses, they used to fly their meals in 3 times a day from home, using the heat of the black hole to keep the food hot. It cost an absolute fortune, but as they didn't have to declare their costs, they got away with it. Things are different now.
Don't I know it, I sighed, thinking back to the pile of forms on my desk on Mars, counting every last firm of electricity.
Well, what's enough staring at food dispensers?
Horace said.
Let's move on down the corridor.
Next door happened to be the military department, led by General Jane. I'd read her manifesto on my way over in the shuttle. Appeasement seemed to be a big thing to the Glabdahardits, though as we weren't at war, it seemed unlikely that we were going to be able to put most of the plan into action. Still, I knew how important safety concerns were to Glabdahardits, and wanted to reassure her that I understood her views, even though I had campaigned not to have a military presence at all. First, though, I had to find her. I thought she wasn't in her office at first, but a squeak from under the table led me to look in greater detail. "Everything all right, General?" I asked, peering down at her.
"I'm ready to go, sir,"
she said. I scratched my head. "Are you sure you're in the right job for this, General? Being in charge of the military, I mean."
"Oh, yes, sir. As long as there is no loud noises and nobody raids their voice near me, everything's all ready to go. I was voted most courageous in my field at the Glabdahardit Academy, you know, sir. It wasn't until 3 Glabdahardits shouted boo a bit very loudly in my last test that my courage failed me, sir. I passed with flying colours."
"Oh, I didn't mean you personally, General. I meant as a race of Glabdahardits in the military. You seem a little jumpy. And no need for the sir. I'm one of you."
"It was just a violent way you walked through the door, sir. I wasn't expecting it. And yes, we are, if you don't mind me saying so, sir, the perfect species. For the military, I mean. We haven't had any war, sir. Well, ever. We're more likely to give in to our colonisers and wish them well to avoid bloodshed. That surely makes us the perfect race to run a military campaign, because we've also never lost a war ever."
I was sure there was some logic to thought there, but I for one couldn't find it just then, and I was beginning to get a headache. "I'm very much looking forward to working with you, General," I said at last. "I've read your manifesto, and it was all very illuminating." At this last word I raised my wings, and the General uttered a terrified squeak from under the table. I mean, I carried on, peering underneath it again, I did think to myself, why we need a military department at all, given that we're a peace organisation, but you made some very valid arguments. I waved my wings again without meaning to, and knocked the desk slightly. General Jane started scratching the desk as if trying to get away from me. Horace coughed and replied on her behalf.
Anyone who says that we don't need any weapons are just lucky enough to have been brought up in times of peace, sir. War can arrive at any time.
"Surely not if we all get on so well now," I demurred. "I mean, it's been over 150 years we've known all about each other, and there have been no wars yet."
Maybe it would be best if we don't discuss war in the war room, sir. It might frighten the General.
Horace tugged at my sleeve.
There are many more departments to see, sir.
Bidding the General farewell, quietly, I walked on and found myself in the filing department. It was run by a very efficient Mechion named Lieutenant Alike.
"We've been working overtime for your arrival, sir, and been as thorough as it has been possible to be. Information on everything that's ever been known about any of the 10 planets is here for you, in alphabetical order, by species. On this wall, for instance, we have terrain, telemetry, telephones, telescreens, telescopes, teleology, televangelists, telemarketers, telegoners."
"Telegoners, Lieutenant? What's that? Antiology? And less of a sir. I'm just Eleron."
Telecollis is DNA basically, sir, and the idea that all partners you've ever had provide DNA for your offspring, not just current ones. and theology is theology in a way, looking for reasons for our existence.
I was rather overcome. Oh, do we really need to know all that? Isn't it all freely available on the Universal? I spent most of my childhood poring over that thing and learning everything I could about all the different species in the universe. I learnt a lot. My classmates referred to me as a walking encyclopedia, which is quite something when you're born on a planet based on learning and education, I concluded wistfully.
Oh, Meteors don't trust that old thing. It's Mrasianart technology, and no offence, sir, given half your heritage. It's all biased, full of emotions and overthinking. I like to deal in cold hard facts and logic.
Horace joined in at this point.
Very true. We Haberdads have always been a little suspicious of it too. After all, why bother to learn anything outside the sphere you need for your job? There are plenty of other species around to ask advice if you need it. All that knowledge just clutters up your brain. Besides, the Universal doesn't work very well out here. It's the fog of Decreeta blocking the signals, apparently.
So you mean we can't use the Universal at all? I asked in horror.
We don't need it,
Shrugged Horace.
There's certainly nothing I need to know other than what I've learnt already. We have a few analog phone and video phone lines. That's about all, and even they keep going down. Besides, this is our chance to see if you know as much as you think you do, Eleron.
As someone who, like much of Mraz, had grown up fascinated by virtually everything, this seemed a very alien thing to say. But just as I realised how ridiculous that sentence was in context, my new researcher continued.
Species like mine, for instance, we know everything. Well, everything that needs knowing.
Alike continued.
Best to be methodical and logical, sir, and to know everything about your enemy. On those grounds, I shall be commandeering the entire top wing of the building for my archives, including your rooms. Oh, and if you could move your foot, sir. You see, you're standing on my WX column. I've got as far as X-rays, stereography, and xylophones.
Xylophones? I said, confused. That's an earth instrument, isn't it?
Oh, yes, sir.
They can't possibly have anything to do with peace. We don't need information on those, surely.
You never know, sir. You never know,
said a light conspiratorially, dropping his voice.
What if one of the 10 planets suddenly develops and adapts xylophones as an instrument not of music but of war, and uses it to accompany their battle cries with ammunition? You never know when war might strike from a species who only communicate by beating sticks against bits of wood, and just when it's least expected, something happens, and pow!
At this sudden noise, I heard a familiar squeak coming from next door. I made a memo to myself to separate these two departments as soon as I had a chance to. I continued, but we're at peace, all 10 of us. There are no need for any weapons, as there are no enemies. And the top wing is where I meant to spread my wings. I've just promised Airglow she can redecorate it.
Oh no, sir, we're not at war now, it's true, but logically, it pays to be efficient in case we are one day, ruthless even, and I'm sure you'll agree, sir, that in the event of a catastrophe, we'll need to know everything in a hurry, and you can sleep on the floor in your office, can't you?
Not quite sure what else to say, and scared of telling Airglow this, I simply smiled peacefully and nodded. Carry on, Lieutenant. Next door was Diplomatic Corps, in charge of meeting overseas guests, where I met Major Moldofus, a McGrumph, who didn't look all that thrilled to see me.
No thanks, Major,
he said as I walked into his office, where he had his feet up with a cup of something that smelled very strong. Major?
Yo.
I'm Eleron, the new Intergalactic President.
So?
I was just walking round meeting my new staff and seeing their new offices. Very, nice.
No.
Horace explained that, by the standards of his homeworld McGrumpus, the Major was roughing it for our benefit, but that he was a respected politician back home, known for his tricky diplomatic negotiations with off-worlders. Said the Major at hearing this, looking nonplussed. Well, I said, nice to meet you. The McGrumph pointed towards the door with his antlers.
Go,
was all he said. So, feeling a bit silly, I did. Well, I thought to myself, there was an uncivil servant if ever I'd met one. Feeling less comfortable than I had when arriving on this planet, I walked next door, the legal department, run by Cody the Camelosian.
"Ah, do come in," she said. "The party to the first part, hitherto known as Eleron, our new leader, will furthermore be accepted in perpetuity as the party to the first part, and greeted with alacrity at all times, when not under A, undue duress, or B, an emergency meeting, where the first party will instead be greeted in an informal manner." "At least you're pleased to see me," I said. "I've just come from the diplomatic office." I shuddered. "Oh, him, he's barely said a word to me since I got here, and I've said at least 8,030,944 to him." "I counted," said the Camalosian. "So how's it going?" I asked, bracing myself for the answer. "Well, the collection of work details henceforward to be known as Article 1 has been accumulated and processed and has been cascaded through the aforementioned directives and has been issued without recourse or complaints hereon." "Oh, good," I said. "I think I'd just like to take this time to see if you would agree to my theory that the party, the second party, which will henceforth be known as the appointed secondary system, will furthermore be granted acknowledged permission to acquiesce access to the unrequited documents that have been collected in perpetuity by our previous brethren in recognition of future accessibility being passed down to the various underlying parties for any information present that might or might not be of mutual benefit to the mutual parties." My head spinning and making my excuses, telling Cody I would be back later for a fuller discussion, I walked along the corridor where I chatted to our Secret Service agent, a clandesprod named Lawrence. Here I had a much better reception. "Eleron," he said, already in full friendly clandesprodic flow, "we have everything worked out perfectly. All we have to do is get every being in this building to sign up to a brand new Official Secrets Act, and everything will be hush-hush. I was just telling my wife, my 6 sisters and brothers, and the whole of my political clan back home. Guys, I said, you'll never believe just how underfunded the Intergalactic Peace Party is. Why, anyone who wanted to could come in and invade us at any time, and this is how they go about it, using the following 10-step program. The thing is, you see, it's all about working out what out-of-planetary security guards are up to at any one time, then bribing them, and their Belobrat, so that's really easy, and then just marching in, and then the directions to where all our Secret Service documents are." I couldn't take any more of this, so I quietly shut the door and walked out. "We're in such trouble," I hissed to Horace.
"I know, sir,"
he said unperturbed.
"He's given 8 interviews about our official secrets today."
I could see why none of the reporters wanted to talk to me then. They're too busy getting the hot gossip from the clandesprods. I walked wearily down the corridor that was marked Accounts, feeling sick. "And what unsuitable, untalented, cretinous, incompetent soul is behind this door?" I said. "A land shark from Earth? An Agrosian that's learned how to talk? A serial killer? Ian Duncan Smith?"
"No,"
said Horace.
"a Mrasianbrat called Odebegar."
I groaned. I knew him well. Odebegar had stood against me at the Mraz IPO candidacy election, but pulled out early after consulting the tellers and prophets on our world, and discovering that the job would prove to be harder work than he had anticipated. Far better, they had said, to work underneath a different boss and take things easy.
"Finances,"
said Odebegar, levitating above a yoga mat as we walked into his office, dark except for a lava lamp.
"are an illusion. The whole universe's economic system is misguided and unbecoming. I say we ignore monetary devices and invest in what really matters at any cost, the people of the universe, in spirituality. To that end, I have decided to do away with our financial matters entirely and destroy our accounts forever, freeing us up so that we can concentrate solely on spiritual matters. I've invested instead in fortune-telling equipment. That way we'll know what's going to happen before it happens, and we won't have to invest in anything."
I felt sick. Much as I had sympathies for such views, they hadn't worked on Mars, and they wouldn't work here either. Murmuring my greetings, I stumbled out the door. Finally, working our way back down the corridor, Horace and I ended up at the PR department, where I watched a Belobrat named Bob that I recognised from a previous administration team hard at work. He was, I understood, named for, and a distant relative of, the Bobby who had helped Edwin and Lizzie during the events of Endurance, and had enjoyed a glittering and sudden political career because of it. We were, I thought, sure to get along, given our shared ties to international literary royalty. I listened in eagerly to what Bob was saying.
"Well, dear viewers of the world, what else could I tell you about myself?"
he said.
"I'm 7'2", have 3 very handsome heads, a good sense of humour, like to go Mrasianbrat racing at weekends, and my favourite colour is roulette. Oh, and I'm also working for the new President Eleron, but Enough about him, more about me.
I raised my eyebrows at Horace. Bob wasn't what I had been hoping for. This is our communications team,
Yes,
Horace said.
Bob was especially chosen from his homeworld for his humility and patience and understanding. He did a lot to help the old IPO system under the Belobrat, and has been here longer than anybody. He's not as associated with the old days as some of the others. He did a lot to change things, actually, get other species involved. I admire him a lot. You'll like him too.
Then ominously he whispered,
As long as you agree with him.
Given how busy Bob seemed to be, we walked on. Finally we were with our receptionist, a Dewsbury giant named Rrr, who was answering the phone, a retro substitute added at the last minute when the builders of the IPO headquarters realised they had no active universal service.
That's unusual,
Whispered Horace.
He's usually out on his lunch break about now.
Oh, I said, what time is that? Horace shrugged.
Lunchtime. It seems rather vague to me, and rather long. But then I'm not a Dewsbury giant. They need more calories than the rest of us put together.
What happens if a visitor arrives and he's not at reception? I asked Horace, but he just shrugs in return. The Dewsbury giant said.
Intergalactic Peace Party. Wait a minute, I can't remember if he's in or not. He might be in a meeting, or he might just be asleep. It's so hard to tell. All these species look alike to me, especially the hairy ones. Would you phone back later?
Seeing Horace, he smiled.
Any idea if the Dewsbury giant is in? I've got a memory like her. What's that thing Sanders produce for tea leaves?
I see.
Horace said helpfully.
Oh, that's it.
Said Rrr, picking up the phone again.
He's on the sieve.
Rrr said into the phone and put it back down again.
No, you're right. Never mind.
Said Horace.
This is Eleron,
Said Rrr.
your new boss.
I held out my hand. Rrr absent-mindedly licked it.
Nice to meet you, Ron Ellie, but I need to get back to work now.
Rrr had lowered his voice to me.
The new boss is due soon, you know, and this place is falling apart. He can't know when he gets here. That would be awful. We'd all be fired.
I marched with Horace towards the office that was mine. It was the tiniest one on the floor, more the size of a broom cupboard. Instead of walls, there were a few makeshift filing cabinets which, judging by the look of the snow on the floor, hadn't done their job too well. There was no furniture barring a battered old desk, a revolving chair that clearly hadn't revolved fully for several decades, and a mirror hung limply on the wall. I saw my reflection as I walked past it, so small and feeble set against the largeness of most of my colleagues. How I hated mirrors, struggling to look into one as I so hated what I saw, so different to the big important politician I tried to be in my head. It was no wonder that the people here didn't seem to be listening to me, or taking me seriously. I looked like the kind of creature you pitied, not a politician to be respected. Even though I'd vowed to be diplomatic and suck up any difficulties in the name of peace, I couldn't take any more. No, 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 I snapped. This is hopeless. Horace shrugged again, a habit that was already becoming irritating.
This was the only room left, I'm afraid, sir. You were here last, so we kept it for you. Something to do with the inferior speed of the Mrasianbrat shuttles, I believe.
Not that, I snapped back, telling myself off for losing my temper so early into my new career. I thought you said we had the best possible people for their jobs, all of whom were highly recommended.
We do.
Well, from what I can see, we have a highly overzealous Mechion in the filing department, a rumour grunt for the diplomatic office, a Camalosian I can't understand in charge of the legal department, Mrasianart financial minister who doesn't believe in money, a Belobrat in the PR department who won't stop talking about himself long enough to discuss our policies, a Clandesbrod secret agent who won't stop talking at all, an absent-minded Dewsbury giant as our receptionist, and my military general is afraid of loud noises and currently hiding under a table.
Yes,
Screamed Horace.
and very well received they all were in their old jobs on the homeworlds too. Compared to others of their species, they're really good at their jobs. Just perhaps not as good as other species would be in each individual one.
Are you sure they didn't just end up here so their planets could get rid of them? I asked, a sudden thought forming in my head. Is it too late for us to get rid of them?
You're not going to sack us, are you, sir? I mean, we don't want to go back to our planets in shame. I think it's probably intergalactically unconstitutional, or something.
No, I have a better idea than that, which I shall be brainstorming now. Well, at least I have you with me, my hard-working co-president. Together we can still achieve greatness, I'm sure of it. Horace looked at his watch and rushed out the door, calling out to me as he went.
Oh, look at that. I'm a quarter second late for my tea break. Do you mind if I take that time off my next work shift, sir? That would be lovely jubbly. Cheers.
I sighed again. This is going to be a long term of office, I thought to myself. I only hoped that there wouldn't be any outbreak of trouble any time soon, because I really had my doubts about how well we would cope solving it, the way things were right now. Queen Calixta looked sternly on her assembled troops, with the certainty of a dictator who had inherited a job title and never had any real reason to feel inadequate or have a power questioned. Everyone she had ever met had been scared of her, from her family's reputation and royal bloodline alone. The beings in their known part of the universe had stopped standing up to her a long time ago and had paid for any insurrection on the homeworlds with their lives, something none of them had ever been allowed to forget. To anyone who didn't know them, the Agrosians were red and fluffy and cute, millennia of interbreeding diluting their very different sets of characteristics down to the point where all were much the same, even though they had been bred to become deadly vicious warriors who gnashed their teeth, swore and bit each other as a matter of course. Those who saw them on first meeting tended to say, "Aw," but those who knew them by reputation were more likely to go, "Ah," and run away. Queen Calixta stared down now at her three generals threateningly, using all her height to her advantage.
You discovered what?
She said slowly, pausing after every word.
Alien spacecraft,
Said Mosh.
not from this world.
Said Gosh.
We found it.
Said Josh proudly.
But that's impossible.
Said Queen Calixta, bellowing and making her Agrosian hive cower.
There's nothing out there in that end of the galaxy except empty space. However, the ship can't be from this side of the galaxy because we've conquered all 10 inhabited planets and claimed another 100 colonies more. You had better be telling me the truth. Repeat after me. Stop telling your highness fibs if you want to keep your heads attached to your bodies.
She'd finished sternly.
Oh yes, mistress. No, mistress. We want to be. Not at all.
Said Josh.
Of course, your elegantness.
Said Gosh.
We're too stupid to deceive you, O Queen.
Said Mosh. And he got a look from the others.
Then bring this imaginary object you found here.
Commanded Queen Calixta.
If nothing else, at least I'll have the option of squashing you all with it.
At this the Agrosians all fell over themselves to see who would be the first to run back in with the mysterious thing. In the end it took 20 Agrosians to waddle awkwardly in with the spacecraft, which got stuck in the door twice before they plonked it on the floor at her feet. It filled up the entire hall and pushed the Queen right back up to her throne.
Get this thing out of here,
yelled the Queen as the Agrosians rushed around terrified, finally depositing the alien spacecraft out in the courtyard.
Now then,
said the Queen, following them outside.
It seems to be real, at least. As I should have guessed, your imaginations and brains all being as feeble as the rest of you. Let's see if this is truly alien technology.
She studied it carefully. Though battered and bruised, she could make out a large circular shape with a giant antenna sticking out of it. On the side she could see strange markings, which if only she had been born on the other side of the universe and had been granted access to Universal Clandestine translator circuits, she would have recognised as reading Voyager in human American English. Though Queen Calixta understood the markings instantly, the makeup of human DNA, an hour recording of their brainwaves, the chemical composition of their planet and its distance relative to their sun, and where it was in their universe, all mapped out in binary code. She was far from impressed.
Kid stuff,
she said.
A backward Agrosian child could have come up with all that and been far more interesting. Plus, what's all this?
Queen Calixta pointed shamefaced at an image on the side of the shuttle.
It seems to be a couple of aliens with no clothes on,
said Posh, peering closely.
How positively frightful. Not that I call cricket at all, what? That's such bad manners,
screamed Queen Calixta.
This species hasn't properly introduced itself to us yet, and already it's sending us unsolicited news. We should destroy it right now. But first, what's that strange contraption next to it?
She ordered the Agrosians to pull a gold cylindrical object off the side of the aircraft, which, with some difficulty after 3 centuries of space rust, they did. Recognising it as an archaic music device, she ordered her hive to gather the right equipment together for her to play it on, and took the gramophone needle that had been hidden under the record. Following the instructions, she played the record at 16 revolutions per minute as requested.
Interesting,
she demurred.
They haven't even discovered 33 1/3 speed on this pathetic planet, unlike ours, clearly an inferior race.
She stood ashen-faced as she stared at 115 pictures of such varied things as humans holding hands, shapes, and strange earth creatures like pandas and frogs.
Ugh,
Said Queen Calixta.
what a sickeningly sentimental planet. And so ugly. Better that we colonise it, or blow it into smithereens now. We would only be doing the species that live there a favour.
Next she listened to sound effects that had been included, and were apparently the sounds of this mysterious new planet. Morse code, trains, rockets, even the sounds of two humans kissing,
Yuck,
said Queen Calixta.
that sort of thing shouldn't be allowed.
Finally, there were pieces of music, snippets of sounds that were apparently all the rage on this mysterious new planet referred to as Earth. Classical music, Indian ragas, Aboriginal percussion, blues, jazz, poetry.
I wandered lonely as a cloud, so I could turn my music up really loud.
Greetings from around the world.
Friends of space, how are you all? Have you eaten yet? Come visit us if you have time. Greetings to our friends of the stars. We wish that we will meet you someday.
And rock and roll. Queen Calixta hated nearly all of it. She burned at Bach, stared at Stravinsky, leered at Louis Armstrong, and moped through Mozart. Only on hearing rock and roll did her toes start tapping, and a smile slide across her face.
This one is nice.
She said to her faithful Agrosians, looking at the label.
I'm not sure why anyone would want to chuck berries at anyone, but I like it. Maybe there is some civilization on this planet after all. Maybe I should travel and capture this Johnny Be Good for myself. Maybe I should get him to write a new verse to our glorious national anthem.
Queen Calixta thought to herself how much she had always dreamed that one day someone would add another verse to the 87-verse Agrosian national anthem, detailing all her own heroic exploits. How marvellous it would be if all these aliens were to be extinguished, except the very one kept alive to write about it. She drifted off, dreamily, imagining future generations of Agrosians, talking about her as the maddest, baddest, and most dangerous to note ruler of them all. It was the most peaceful and happy the Agrosians had ever seen her. Too soon, though, she was back to the chants of Tibetan monks, and a semi-permanent scowl returned to her face again.
What is this racket?
She bellowed at the Agrosians, who didn't quite know what to say to her.
Do these people try to conquer us through audio warfare? I take this noise as the greatest of insults. Why, I haven't heard anything this bad since we outlawed the space schools, and our wretched song, Zogga Zogga, that was clogging up our charts. It's surely an act of war. Apart from that Chuck Berry one, it is all quite unlistenable. Yes, Your Highness,
said Mosh.
Awful.
Spluttered Gosh.
Wish I raise them to the ground, whoever they are.
Said Josh.
When the did it? You make an interesting point there, little Agrosian,
said the Queen, picking her teeth thoughtfully with a crown.
These sounds clearly aren't made by any race that we've conquered. They all know that the only singing they are allowed to do since I came to power is our gloriously brutal national anthem. This ship must have been made by a new civilization we have not yet discovered from beyond the stars. Just think of it, new worlds to conquer. It won't take long to conquer them either, thanks to our interstellar craft. But we need now directions. Given this din, they are surely deserving of destruction. Sending such sounds to us is a clear insult and tantamount to a declaration of war. They must feel the full power of my wrath.
Her eyes then turned to the inscription on the disc, which featured what seemed to be a series of coordinates.
Interesting.
Queen Calixta purred to herself.
These alien beings have just signed their death warrant. Not only have they drawn attention to themselves, but they have even given me a map of where they live. They look like puny beings to me from these illustrations, easily conquered. I mean, just look at those spindly little legs. Evolution must have been playing a joke on that planet. They can become our 111th colony. I shall call it Calixta CXI. Most excellent idea, Your Highness,
said Mosh.
Absolutely, you're brilliant.
Said Gosh.
Who won't know what's happening?
Said Josh. I walked wearily back to Airglow, who was waiting in the shuttle with the Belobrat mud pack on, my thoughts getting heavier with every step. I just couldn't see my way out of this mess.
Where have you been?
She said, scowling, 6 vegetables lying on the 6 eyes.
It's been hours.
Sorry. Well, in my head I've been saving the universe, although chances are I've just been banging my head against a brick wall. A large one. I'm beginning to think I might be out of my depth here. Airglow looked at me quizzically.
You're not getting in already? After that long-winded speech you gave me earlier? That's not the Eleron I'm married. Where is the one who once promised me the universe gone?
No, I can see the universe all right, I replied, the sarcasm trait peculiar to my human side kicking in. That's the problem. The universe is very, very big, and I'm very, very small, and I don't see how I can possibly help it run properly when I can't even run my own offices adequately. Airglow softened her stance.
I've never heard you sound this defeated before. Is it really that bad?
Oh yes, I sighed. Worse even. I'd really hoped that people were ready to take peace seriously, and that we would have the best people from all 10 worlds to make it happen, regardless of my role in that. But I see that we're as much of a joke as we were under the Belobrats. At least they were quite open about their dishonesty. But here, it feels as if we got the worst people possible to keep the universe safe, and everyone is pretending everything's fine, when it isn't. It's hopeless. We might as well start up the shuttle engines now and go home. Airglow cradled me in her arms.
And it's about time the universe had someone like you there to make peace work,
She said.
You forget your background's pretty much unique in the universe. For you, peace is personal in a way that it never ever has been for everyone else out there, including the others who put themselves forward. Don't forget that. It was your vision that got you elected because you had something the others didn't have. That's your job, to use that vision to guide you.
Yes, I said, suddenly sitting up. Thank you, Airglow. I'm not going to be defeated this early on. They're not a bad bunch of people at all. They just need leadership, and I'm the one who's been given that job. It should be up to me to lead them. And you're right, I know what it's like to be persecuted and surrounded by war when most of the universe has forgotten what that's like. And I am the boss. I think I know how to put this right. Will you come with me? I can't do it without you.
Being alone is lonely, but better when we work together.
She smiled at me, quoting from my own speech, and walked off with me, hand in wing.
Universal entry, AB544936943. Branch Universal Systems keep going. President Eleron. Announcement headline. Cabinet reshuffle. Retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
The other inhabitants of the Intergalactic Peace Headquarters were milling round when Airglow and I got there and thumped again on the by now familiar door knocker. Being let in by an agitated-looking Horace. Airglow with the longer legs was ahead of me and pushed her way through the door, pausing for a reaction that didn't arrive. She tilted her head, smiled, and then held her 3 hands out to Horace, the only one who was there.
Your queen has arrived. You may kiss whichever of the 3 hands you fancy.
Horace coughed.
I think the term more normally used is First Lady.
First,
Said Airglow, nodding with approval.
I like the sound of that. It will do nicely. Now, before we get any further, here is a list of my instructions for how I would like to be treated during my time on this planet. Kindly bestow these demands to the rest of the staff forthwith.
Airglow then handed out an instruction booklet, several pages fat, turning one of them as she did so. I glanced down at the front page, which included the following.
You shall all refer to me as Madam. Her Majesty is also acceptable, or you is not. My handmaids will all wear the finest clothes, though clearly not as fine as mine. No being shall use grotesque slang within my hearing, such as yep, nope, watcher, or you. All doors shall be held open for me, and 2 beings with a razoola will walk ahead and play a fanfare for me wherever I go. Everyone shall salute when I walk into a room. My crowns and tiaras are to be polished every morning until I can see all 3 faces in them. All firstborn members of staff during my time of office will be called Airglow somewhere in their name.
A lesser being would have been thrown by this, but not Horace.
Very good, madam.
He said.
However, I think you may find some of these rules a little challenging to enact. For instance, there is no other staff present beyond the cabinet members.
Ridiculous!
Snorted Eglo.
Now, Porter, there are a number of suitcases waiting in the shuttle. Have them brought up to our new quarters as soon as you can. They're sure to be the biggest rooms.
Horace coughed again, trying to keep a straight face.
For example, madam, I'm no Porter, but your new vice president. We don't have any staff yet.
Oh,
said Eglo, thinking for a few seconds.
well, a first lady still beats a vice president. You can at least manage the bigger bags, can't you, a big strapping bird like you?
Next, Eglo walked to where the other IPO delegates were waiting.
Hello, peasants. Say hello to your new ruler. Signed holographs are available on request, but I warn you that I will be charging proceeds for them that all go to my favourite charity, Hats for Belobrat. You are all very honoured to meet me. One day you will be able to tell your children, and your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren about this cherished moment in your lives when your presence first intersected with mine. I will pause for now and give you a chance to soak in every detail to better aid your future memories of this cherished moment.
There was total silence, broken only by Eglo complaining.
Well, isn't anybody going to take my bags? I am the First Lady, after all. You're all just riffraff. First Lady, me, lady.
We'll deal with all that later, I said to my wife as diplomatically as I could, before turning to the assembled throng. I'm sorry we were so long out there. Culture shock, you could say. We're back now, though, and I mean business. I'm so looking forward to meeting you all properly, and I'm absolutely bursting with new ideas. Horace, stepping over the bags, didn't react.
We couldn't find you, sir. Your bodyguards are having apoplexy. They don't like to stray too far from the headquarters in case they get lost.
Bodyguards? Two tiny squeaks revealed two tiny glabdahardits I hadn't even noticed. They were no bigger than my wingtips rolled up into a ball at our feet. Eglo's suitcases landed on their tails, trapping them and making them helpless. These are our bodyguards,
That's right, sir.
continued Horace.
Trained to fly in front of you at a moment's notice in case of danger. As long as that danger doesn't include any of the following: loud noises or bangs, sudden violent movements, bright lights, an over-aggressive tone or mannerism.
Right, that's it, I announced loudly to the assembled throng. I've had enough of doing things the old way, based on the jobs people used to do, and wanted to have a few words with you. I know we've become a bit of a joke as the IPO throughout the universe, with planets cutting their budgets and threatening to pull out left, right and centre, but I'm pleased to say that none of you have just yet. Right now is when we start again though, and we're going to prove to the universe just what a fine job we can do when we all work together. We're going to get more done than ever before. If there's a skirmish, we want to be involved, right? We want to solve everything and make life better for all the 10 species that live under our care. I know that most of you are uncomfortable with the positions that you were being given anyway, but you were only doing them on your home planets as there were no other jobs available to you. Well, that's all changed now. You all have specialist skills and knowledge that the universe needs, that I need to do my job. You all have talent. They were just being used in the wrong places, that's all. Now, I want your feedback on some changes I'd like to make straight away. The Mechion is going to be moved to the financial department. The Clandesbrod is going to be moved to publicity. The Begrumpf is going to be in charge of security and secrets. The Belobrat is moved to military. The Glabdahardits are all moved to diplomacy. The Mrasianart is going to do the research, and I shall get the Universal restored pronto, if only so I can have my flipping bed back. The Dewsbury Giant is our new security guard for everyone, not just for me. A Camelosian is going to keep her job, but only on the condition we hire an assistant human from Earth who can actually translate everything she says for me. My bodyguards can go home and serve someone else far more important, as well as claw back a little on the budget. We're not likely to get many political assassins travelling out to Decreeta, and if they manage to get through all that fog and get past the Dewsbury Giant on security, then they deserve a free pot shot at me. I want enough of these replicator machines. You're all to take turns at cooking for us and introducing us to your local cuisine, the cost of which will come out of my own personal budget. I'm going to take turns at cooking you some Earth meals too, as part of the heritage of my mother Eleanor's side, when she couldn't stand the cooking machines on Mars any longer. I'd like to hire a new receptionist too if our money will stretch to it, but for now I will be doing that job myself. I think it will be a much better use of everyone's talents, and I want to stress that I have total and utter faith in each of you in your new jobs, though not in your old ones. There was an outcry at this.
Well, that's not what we trained for.
Rur cried. Maybe not, but it's what you're good at, and at the moment that matters more than protocol and rules.
And me, sir?
Said Horace nervously. I like you. You're staying put, on the condition that you stop taking days off and calling me sir.
Oh, I could do that, sir, no problem. As long as I have Monday off, sir, there's a rather good programme coming on the BCBC all about giving bed algebra.
I decided to let that one go and talk about it later. Now then, I know this is a big change for all of you, but I want you to at least try your new roles out and see how you get on. I would be free for each and every one of you to come and report back to me if you have any problems or want any feedback, and you are always free to discuss everything with me. Now, any questions? A sea of varied arms, hooves and wings shot into the air. I sighed for what felt like the zillionth time that week. Was there no end to this?
Eleron,
said Bob, towering over my desk as he walked in to see me. Suddenly I understood how glad the Hardits felt and considered hiding under my table. To my surprise, though, Bob was holding out a hand to me and grinning from ear to ear on all three heads.
just wanted to say how impressed I've been with your first day. You've walked into here, an alien world, and taken charge of this bunch of delinquent ragamuffins straight away.
Oh, I said, relieved. Thank you. I was afraid, as the last remainder of the old guard, you were in here to tell me off.
Not a bit of it,
said Bob, taking his seat.
Why, I pride myself in being a talent spotter, and I knew you were the perfect president for us. A visionary, a seer, yet also a doer, someone who is incredibly naive in what we believe, yet simultaneously stubborn enough to never change that vision when the hugeness of reality doesn't fit the facts. Someone who isn't afraid to meddle in things that we don't quite understand. Someone who isn't there to sit on rules and traditions that have existed for centuries, but is instead so sure of his personal vision that he's content to cast all that learning and understanding aside in favour of his intuition.
I gulped. Pardon?
Oh, it's commendable, lad, commendable. Why be a realist when you could just stare out the window and wish things into being? That's the Mrasianart way, isn't it? Or just be hopeless and pretend you're not, and just bluster through foolishly. That's the human way, after all. And to think you combine both traits so well. How many generations of idealists have there been on your planet now? And still you keep pressing forward, certain that this time things will be perfect, and you'll work out the answers to the mysteries of life of the universe, instead of just admitting that it's already become as good as it's going to get. I admire your courage in the face of all the other species telling you that life isn't perfect, and it's a struggle, that things are hard, but there you are with the audacity to stand up in front of the universe and say, I know more than the many quadzillions of you how life can be better. What other beings are out there making money, working hard, sacrificing everything? There you are, making a living by believing in this mystical future based on peace and understanding and equality that only you can see. What courage! I don't think even we Belobrats would have the nerve to present such a vision to the universe with such ungainly certainty.
Well, I said, my metaphorical feathers more ruffled than a Haberdasher in an earth car wash. It's work back home. Life enjoyment levels are through the roof on Mars, and isn't that the most important thing about living when all is said and done? To measure things not in terms of riches or power, but through contentment and satisfaction.
Well spoken,
said Bob, clapping slowly as he stared into my eyes.
I mean, the universe has been the way it has for several millennia, and there you are thinking you can improve it all by yourself. As I said, what courage. Thanks for being that full of yourself. Why, it's positively Belobratish of you.
Well, the Belobrats had their chance to make life better for everyone, and they messed it up, I said. It's about time someone else had a go.
My thoughts exactly,
said Bob.
Let the weaker, younger, sillier species have a go, and take over from us experienced elders. Maybe you'll have beginner's luck, eh?
Just as I was opening my mouth to fight back, Horace walked into my office, smiling at Bob, but somehow looking more nervous than I had seen him so far.
Oh,
he said,
the new guard and the old guard getting on famously. That's just what this universe of ours needs. But it was a call on the phone for you, Bob. I think you'd better take it. Of course,
said the Belobrat.
I shall get back to my very important business and let you get on with whatever it is you do. Nice to have a chat, though, Eleron.
And so saying, he left. I saw him and Horace pass glances between them on his way out the door, something I clearly wasn't meant to see. Something the matter with your eye, Horace? I asked innocently.
No, sir,
he said, momentarily embarrassed.
That is to say, it's been a hard day reading through files. They're a little strained.
I thought you said you were having a night off watching the television.
Oh, yes, that's right, sir. It was a holographic projection from the Grumpers. It hurt my eyes a little, that's all. So I only read a few files. Maybe that one. Actually make that half. Actually make that half of half. And what you make of Bob?
I mulled my words over. He seemed very full of himself. Horace grinned, more naturally this time.
Well, he is a Belobrat, sir. There's not much you can do about that.
Oh no, I said. I didn't mean bad. I've known lots of Belobrats in my time on Mars, and I'm married to a half one after all. It's just that Bob seems to act like he has a big secret he's not telling everyone else.
That's experience, I think, sir.
Horace deadpanned.
He's been working for peace much longer than the rest of us. I think he still runs more of it than anyone else. The old system really wasn't as corrupt as people say, of course. Between you and me, I think we've kept most of it. We've sold it to the greater public as a new restructuring, but really, it's more of a redecoration.
Well then, I said, trying to pull myself up to my full height, maybe it's time all that changed and we got the metaphorical bulldozers out, especially now that the old guard are all in new jobs.
Full sound entry on the Universal President Eleron. Entry AB 54493649885. Mars Universal Systems Key Code Eleron. Headline: Press Interviews. Retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
Are you doing anything later on today, sir? Asked Lawrence for Clandersprod, sticking his head out of the office door with some difficulty. I really must change these officers around, I thought to myself. No, I'm not doing anything now, as a matter of fact. Is there anything I can help with? I said, with relief at being able to think about something safe and easy, like running the universe. Well, it's obviously not a priority, sir. I would love to have interviews with everybody on the staff as part of my publicity campaign of daily newsletters, sent digitally to all the 10 worlds, and, well, sir, you're the obvious one to start with. I'd be glad to, I said, grinning. None of the off-worlder media seemed particularly interested in talking to me after I left Mars, and I still have so much I feel I haven't said to anyone. That's good, sir. Now hang about while I find some questions I jotted down. Oh, here we are, sir.
The Decreeta Daily, Sunday, August the 30th, 2281. The Do-Wrong Eleron. Today, in the first of our Meet the Team interviews, we will be talking to Humrasianart Eleron, the newly installed Intergalactic President, about his loves and hates. Aglo, the glamorous Mrasianbrat, who is his childhood sweetheart on Mars, his extensive Earth record collection, and his favourite archigrams. He also tells us more about his mission to aid peace on every planet in the known universe, and the seriousness with which he takes his responsibilities. Welcome to the Decreeta Daily, Eleron, the new newspaper from the International Peace Headquarters. Are you having a peaceful day?
Thank you for having me, Lawrence. I'm honoured to be the first member of staff in your chair. It's a much more comfortable one than the chair in my office. But my day's been interesting. Goodness, it's been a whirlwind since first getting this job. But I'm starting to think I'm slowly getting the hang of it a little bit now. And the staff have been incredibly friendly and welcoming. Mostly. I really feel as if we're becoming quite a team now.
What was it that made you want to run for office?
Well, I'm sure by now readers know all about my experiences back on Mars and what my parents went through trying to be one of the universe's first interspecies couples. Seeing them struggle and the prejudice we experienced, even on as wonderful and enlightened a world as Mars, showed me early on how important politics are to everyone's lives. I really didn't want anyone to suffer the way we had as a family under Almathea when we were deported and when my father Oberon sadly lost his life.
Did you ever think you'd win?
Honestly, no. There were so many strong candidates running against me that I admired so much, most of whom I will be able to call my friends soon. If I'm honest, I joined up for the experience of working with other species, something I badly wanted to do, with the hope that I might be able to stand for office later. To be honest again, I've been more than a little overwhelmed by the challenge at times on my first day, but as I sit here in front of you today, I'm so pleased that I put myself forward.
How is it finding life on Decreeta?
Well, it's been a big change for both of us. Mars was where both of us spent our childhoods. It was very different to here. We were brought up in one of the universe's oldest communities where you barely saw a face that wasn't Mrasian, apart from our close off-worlder friends, and were so out of the way there that not many people come or go, except the post-beings and removal species. Here, though, the community is as new as you can get, and everyone has their own ideas about things. That's all getting much easier with time, though. It's the weather that still takes some getting used to, even if I am still amazed at the brilliance of the terraforming Mechions to create this planet at all. We both get a bit homesick sometimes, but we're settling in nicely.
How much will it help you being at the centre of the universe on Decreeta? Does it give you a new perspective on the size of the universe?
Yes, it does. Weirdly, the universe feels smaller than it did on Mars, more manageable. I've been told that if the fog lifted just a little bit, I'll be able to see all the 10 inhabited planets from our bedroom window. Being so close to everyone in general, and no one in particular, will help a lot when I settle into my job, be able to visit the leaders from all 10 planets, and hopefully as many of the citizens of each one as I can too, so I can talk to them about their worries and fears. Thanks to these new souped-up shuttles we have now in the event of a crisis, I can get somewhere really quickly, which is something none of my predecessors could ever do. That's something I really plan to really use to my advantage.
Tell us about your hobbies and interests.
Well, I'm a collector of anything and everything that interests me from all over the galaxy. I fell in love with the universal when I was young and loved learning all about the 10 different planets and vowed one day that I would visit them all. I have a particular love for 1960s Earth music recordings, thanks to my mother, and my father was interested in them too. I love Clandesprod tea thanks to my Sprod parent. I have quite a collection of teapots I imported from Zigguris Free. There are some great history books I picked up from all over, but particularly from Camelosia. I think it must be my Mrasianart side, but I seem to never stop learning, and I never grew out of it after leaving school, the way other species seem to. Oh, I have a terrific collection of instruments from my days in the Peace Orchestra.
There are some who say that peace is constant, and having an organisation to promote it seems unnecessary. What do you say to them?
There are always those, in every species, who see war as a shortcut to greed and power, and I know this to my cost from my childhood under Almathea. If it could happen on a planet as happy and peaceful as Mars, then it can happen anywhere. I love the idea that somewhere out there of beings from every planet working together to solve any problems when they arise, so that they don't grow into all-out wars, and step in with their experience and hopefully some are good ideas to help soothe the tensions. After all, if there are people out there dedicated to war spotted around every planet, then why not a coordinated attempt at peace?
What, in a few words, is your vision for the universe?
Oh, so many things. It's a lifetime's work, so I don't know if I can fit it into a few words, but I shall try. It feels lately as if our universe has become bitterly divided, as if we've all skirted around with the ideas of really working together, but have decided to go back to putting our own planets first again. Well, I don't want that anymore. I want the IPO to be leading the way and showing what can be done when we all work together. I see a future where the IPO will be there for any being who needs it, whatever species they may be in, just as my family once needed it on Mars. We still have far too much prejudice against hybrid species across the universe, and those that I speak to tell me that they don't feel as if they belong anywhere. I want to stop that, to come in with the weight of our organisation and show people that it's nice to be smart, but smart to be nice. I want to be there overseeing planetary governments and checking for corruption and unfairness. I want to play a part in ensuring that all elections universally are fair and unbiased, so that the desires of the people are really represented. I want us to be ready to step in with an interim government when there is one that fails its people and gets too many complaints. Decreeta is still new, but I hope in time it will be a place of safety for all refugees and whistleblowers, a haven where people can be heard and political developments can be viewed kindly, fairly, without any bias to one particular species. Most of all, I want the people of every planet to be happy. Whilst it will take many generations, I hope that what we do now will go some little way to ensuring that in the future people never have to go hungry or without shelter or be forced to work in primitive conditions. There are some planets with more money than they know what to do with, whilst others are desperately crying out for it, and others, like my homeworld, that don't have any monetary system at all, but is frightened of those that do. I want us to be there to redistribute things fairly, so that people don't suffer unnecessarily, and not just money, but the resources that the other planets have to offer that the capitalist ones don't have, from our spiritual understanding to the Clandesprod's renewable fuel, so that everyone who wants to can benefit, not just from the soil they were born on, but everything our 10 species have to offer. Most of all, I want us to be a good neighbour, always on the lookout for those who are struggling, and offering a helping wing, on the understanding that civilization is long and hard and goes through many cycles, and that the planet being helped out today might be in a position to return the favour to those who help them in the future.
What exactly does your job entail?
Well, I like to think of myself as an overseer. Most of the staff here know their jobs and get on with them pretty well. I like to think they can come to me for advice, though. And I do a lot of the paperwork, the niggly details that no one else wants to do. Plus, of course, all the big decisions rest with me, although I will consult as many of my staff as possible to get as many views as I can.
You must need a lot of downtime from your stressful job. What do you do?
There hasn't been much of a chance for that so far in this job. I did transport most of my record collection with me, though. There's an Earth band called Pink Floyd who released an album called Dark Side of the Moon, and it was played live by their android hologram doubles on the actual moon.
What is your vision for the universe going forward?
Well, you never know what life is going to throw at you, of course. But for now, all I see is a bright future of everyone working together in peace and harmony. I know it will take compromise to get there, but I see a universe without borders or boundaries, where people can move about as they please and live in hope. What a magical, kinder, fairer society that would be for all of us. We would all benefit in the end, even the Belobrats. I just know that I have the perfect team behind me, ready to make that dream a reality. I really want the universe to get bigger too. All too often politicians only seem interested in the small world they come from. I think it's about time we saw the bigger picture and realised just how many people are affected by the way each of us runs our lives. Most of our planet started off as smaller tribes before they got together to form countries, and only then came to think of themselves as planets. Some of us don't even think that way now. Now that we all know and understand, and to an extent trust each other, I'd love to see what we could do together as a combined universe, now that we don't have to worry about fighting amongst ourselves anymore. I hope.
Finally, what's your favourite algebra?
What's the long and stripy one again?